Welcome to another edition of the Will Be Blood Fight Show. I'm your host, Dave Duenas. What's going on, brothers? Let's talk about Saturday night fight on May 30th. You had Berto versus Juan Urango. You had Alfredo Angulo versus Kermit Cintron. All right, well, let's first start off with the undercard. The fight that really I thought had a making of being a really good fight, and it turned out to be a very decent fight. Kermit Cintron, I did give the keys out of how Kermit could win this fight. I talked about how he needed the distance, how he needed to make sure that he wasn't going to allow, Angulo to close that distance, to smother him up with shots, and he really needed to have the range for his arms to pull off them shots so that he can keep Angulo humble. And I did mention that I wouldn't be surprised if he rocked him, okay? And he did. And he clearly outboxed Angulo for 9 straight rounds. The last 3 rounds, you could see the pressure was really still getting a toll on him and stuff, and he was kind of falling apart. He even went back to his corner and he asked Ronnie Shields, do you think I'm winning the fight? So Ronnie Shields had to be a motivator throughout the fight, and that's where a lot of things come into play. Now, we got to remember this. Kermit Cintron was the underdog of this fight, and he pulled out an upset. But how significant of an upset was it really? Okay, because the fact is this, a lot of guys were anticipating greatness coming out of Angulo, but I did mention that he was a slow fighter. Secondly, I think a lot of people are failing to forget that this guy only had 15 fights under his belt. Okay, and really was a prospect. This guy was not in the championships elite yet. He was building to be up there. So this could be the case of Angulo really, honestly, being humbled back to what he really is a guy in a learning process. Getting in there with a veteran like Kermit Cintron was not the best thing for him. So being a little rushed in his career was able to be visible by getting in there with Killer Cintron. Okay, now, where does it leave Kermit Cintron in the mix of 154? Well, I tell you what, some guys are going to think, whoa, Killer needed this fight and it's going to get him big fights. But does it really show us that he can be up to par to big fights? I don't think so. This fight may be a little deceiving just because of the fact that Angulo really has a style that's very beatable. Okay? Put in against the right opponent, he can always be outboxed until he starts making the adjustments and the experience that he needs to be in the top elite. Now, Kermit Cintron, all right, the big thing everybody's talking about is confidence. Did this build up his confidence build? Okay, did it build it up? Max Killerman asking him, hey, did you think this really upped it up? He said, yeah, I really don't think so. I honestly don't, because I think even he knows this was a prospect guy. This was a guy that really everybody was kind of looking at and hoping that he was going to be built to be into a champion. There's still guys out there that are going to give him way more problems, okay? Sergio Martinez, Daniel Santos, Paul Williams, and you still got the wild card if this guy doesn't get any fights. Sugar Shane Mosley, who can make 154 very comfortably. Okay, so where does it leave Cintron in the whole mix? I still say it's still in the dark. I still say there's a big question mark above his head. Great job that he did by pulling it off on Angulo, but really, it's still going to go under. He's still going to go in as the underdog, facing any of the top 5 guys at 154. All right, now let's move on. Berto versus Juan Urango. Okay, Juan Urango really needed to keep the fight in his chest, get in there to land those big heavy shots that he has. Now, you know what? Some guys were really criticizing Berto for holding. Now, they were saying it's because he's fatigued, blah, blah, blah. But the truth is this, okay? Remember this. Juan Urango is a heavy puncher. Berto was very aware of that. So when somebody's aware of the punching power a guy's got, they do either two things. They slip and use their defense skills to get away from the return shots, or they hold because they're afraid of the incoming. After they drop their flurries, they're afraid of what's going to be coming back to them for them to receive. So what they do is they shell up and hold. Okay, so either way, if you didn't like what Berto was doing to be effective, to make sure that he avoids getting hit back, it doesn't matter because it still got him the win. Now, some guys say this was a very lackluster fight for him. I don't understand why. It was a one-sided fight. It was really, Berto showing, hey, listen, this guy's moving up in weight. He's facing one of the best guys right now, one of the top 10s in the welterweight division, and I'm going to show him why I'm one of the top 10 fighters of the welterweight division right now. And that's exactly what he did. He just clearly outboxed him. Now, there was two questions answered, by Berto facing Juan Urango. One is this. I had a lot of questioning about his footwork. I wasn't really sure if he knew how to dart in and out and really box, because we've seen him plant his feet, throw fast combinations, okay, but then get hit a lot in return. Now, he showed one thing. He can use his footwork. He can get out of there. He can dance around. He can use his jab. He can drop shots, and then he can close that distance by holding to make sure there's no counter punching, okay? So that's one thing that he answered for a lot of us. Secondly, he honestly answered, is he ready to face any of the top guys in the welterweight division? A Cotto, Colati, a Shane Mosley, and even a possible Mayweather? I don't think so. Because if he does, he's going to need the perfect fight every time he steps into the ring to face any of these guys. And I'm going to tell you why. I said it, and a lot of people disagree with me saying about his punching power. He doesn't have it. And the funny thing is this, and this has got to be really frustrating for Andre Berto. He sits on his punches, and he throws a man with pivoting. He turns that hip, and he throws them shots, man, and he's very accurate and when he lands, okay? He's got good eye coordination. The problem is, even when he's planning, he's really not damaging these guys. He's not making them think twice about trying to come in and go after him. Juan Urango never gave up. He kept going all 12 rounds to try to score a KO over Berto. But Berto, was just too fast, too elusive, and really was just way smarter in the ring for Juan Urango. Now, that's what it leaves up with a big question was, can he hang Berto? Can he hang with the top guys? I really honestly have to say, not at this moment. Allow him to still build up. Really, he has unfinished business right now with Luis Collazo. He needs to go back in there with a veteran, slick, southpaw fighter who can give a lot of people problems and make them look like shit. That's what he needs to do. He needs to go in there and redeem himself, get that win, hopefully try to get that win more convincingly than he did against, when he had fought him the first time, and really then move on and try to face some other guys that are kind of sporadically mixed up in the welterweight division before really going after any of the top 5 guys out there in the welterweight division. Because like I said, if he does, he's going to have to fight a perfect fight, okay? Because he has really nothing more than speed and a little bit of footwork to offer any of the top guys to keep him wary about trying to close the distance to knock him out. He's got a good chin, yes, I give him that, even though he wasn't really tested in this fight, we didn't really see Urango really get a good punch off of Berto, but in the previous fights before, we've seen, Berto have a good chin. But against guys like a Cotto, Colati, or even a Mosley, especially a Mosley who's a big puncher at 147, you got to kind of lift it up like, okay, what can he really do? Can he keep him out there? He's going to have to use a lot of backpedaling moves. He's going to have to hold a lot more than usual than you see him with the Urango fight. And he's going to have to land first, be first in everything that he does facing any of those guys I just mentioned right now. And at the moment, I don't see none of that happening. I see him getting his moments, but then really honestly falling apart, getting break down, and because of the fact that he has nothing more to keep these guys at bay. So he's got to sharpen up his boxing skills before we can see him move on to any of the top guys. Being thrown out to the wolves so early, I don't see that happening, and I don't see why. I think there's a lot of improvement there to be made, and why not? There certainly is time. Right now, none of these top other guys are really looking at him as a major threat, so they're not really calling him out, so give it some time. He's still a young champion. Anyways, I'm your host, Dave Duenas. This was another edition of the WillBeBloodFightShow.com. And check out Blood. Blood got his credentials. We got his credentials to go out there and analyze the fight and write up some articles, take some pictures, and he posted it up on his site. Go check him out, man. Also check out my boy 916 Chris. Check out David Chen, Hoodathan, all other great boxing channels. I'm your host, Dave Duenas.